So what I want to cover today, as I said, I've been talking about, this. I covered this in a webinar because I'd gotten so many questions from new mastermind members about, um, what is the exact kind of sequence to do everything. And I usually would just point to the Google Business Profile SOP, but that's only part of it, right? Because there was a period of time where that was pretty much all I was doing. I wasn't even really working on the websites for clients because it wasn't needed. There was a period of time where Google Business Profiles could rank really well without the website or with the Google Business website, which was one page. So we did all of that in the GBP. And so there was a few years there where that was basically all I did. I wasn't doing a lot of website work at all. And so that's why I pointed to that. But now it's not the case anymore. Now on page optimization for the self hosted site is critically important for the performance of the GBP as well. So we have to take a more holistic approach. Okay. We can't kind of put all of our efforts into just GBP like I did for a period of time. All right. So when I covered this back in November of 2024, it was just a very kind of, it was just basically a checklist or you know, itemized list of like you see like an outline where I was just showing like these are basically the process that the exact step or sequence of tasks that I apply to a local SEO campaign for one of my own local SEO clients. So that means not for like white label stuff, but for clients that we are fully managing for on page and everything, where we're direct retail agency clients essentially. Okay, so for me, it's tree contractors, and so now I just added where that I started that in the webinar because that's the webinar replay for mastermind members. So that's in at 1 hour and 10 minutes is basically when I started talking about this. So today I fleshed this out a little bit more where I added kind of these headings, and then I give some basic time frame examples from when for our typical timeline for completing these tasks. Okay, and it's always done in the first month. We always complete like all the on page stuff in the first month. And I mean, obviously, with all clients, they after the first month, they always end up wanting little tiny things done to the site. They want to add stuff. They want to add different photos and all that kind of stuff. And so that's ongoing, just kind of maintenance stuff that we do anyways. There's a gnat flying around. But the bulk of the on page work and the setup for the campaign is all done in the first 3 weeks, really. Um, and then the fourth week plus going, so 4 weeks on going on is just ongoing continuous work, link building, press releases, which is content marketing, kind of a combination of content marketing and link building. We do engagement stuff, although I've really gotten away from doing much CTR stuff recently. Other than if I'm going to do it, it's going to be using Google Ads. I'm sure you guys have probably heard we're shutting Local Fury down. It's just too hard to maintain, too hard to manage, to sustain. Plus, the Google continues to get better all the time at determining what is valid traffic and what is not. And I can see very clearly that the ability to continue manipulating CTR signals is quickly fading. And so we decided to pull the plug because it doesn't look like it's going to be sustainable to be able to continue providing any measurable results from it. So we're winding it down just because it's just not. It was never really as profitable as we had hoped because of the costs involved in trying to maintain Google profiles and everything. So anyway, we shut that down or are shutting it down, and we're in the process of doing that this month. Um, and I've also found, I mean, I still use SERP Empire for like businesses with for my tree care contractor clients that don't have published street addresses. I will still apply the CTR signals, but from SERP Empire because it integrates with um, Search Console, excuse me, and it's very conservative with its sending of signals, and so and that's why I will use that. But what I'm finding is that the CTR stuff is really not really helpful anymore unless it is validated traffic sources. And so for that, proximity push will work, Google Ads, and I still do that for some clients when I feel it's needed. I will go through the trouble or the hassle of setting up a CTR campaign using Google Ads, display ads. Okay. But other than that, I'm really kind of suggesting against doing much CTR stuff now because, again, I think it's very quickly going to be something that Google will be able to identify whether it's a real valid traffic signal or not. And if it's not, it can become something that they can use against you, basically to punish you. I don't know as Google continues to lose market share, how much that's really going to matter in in the coming year or two. But for now, it's still important. And so I would recommend kind of against using CTR services unless you know that they're effective and safe. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so I just brought that up because this shrunk a little bit from back in November. There was three different things listed here. Now, SERP Empire, Local Fury, and Proximity Push. And really, I'm recommending just sticking to validated traffic signals. Proximity Push can do it. It's hard to scale when you've got dozens of clients when you're doing that. But if you just got a handful of clients, it's very powerful. And I don't do this for all clients. I only do it when I think it's needed, like for clients that where their campaigns aren't responding as well to the other stuff, then it might need a little bit of a push. Then I will go through the trouble of setting that up. Okay. But for the majority of clients, we don't do it because it's time consuming and it's hard to scale. Okay. Hopefully that's clear. So we'll come back to that. I just wanted to point out the difference because I know that you guys, well, Mastermind, there's a replay of this, and there has been some detail added to this. Some of the things have changed slightly since last November, and that's what we're going to cover today. So what I'd like to do is add a little bit of more detail to this. I started building a SOP for it, so I will end up building an SOP out for this. So there will be not only more text about each one of these, where I'll provide a description and better more detail about the timelines and things like that, but I'll also probably record a video for each one of those modules as well, and just kind of narrate a little bit about when and maybe show some examples, etc. So eventually, within the next, I don't know, few weeks, I should have a full SOP built out for this, which then I think will be valuable for you guys. Okay. In the meantime, part of the reason why I wanted to talk about this today was so that I had a recording of this. It'll help me to develop that SOP better. Okay. So starting with this, like I said, there's the link to the webinar replay if you guys wanted to watch that. It starts at about 1 hour and 10 minutes where I'm covering this, but since I'm covering it today, I don't think that's going to be necessary. The brand is really three components, right? We're talking about brand, on page, off page. That's it. So the brand stuff, everything we do in the first week, that's the most important thing in my opinion. That's why we start with that. Okay. And so depending on whether it is an existing business that has already been established, or if it is a new business or a business that doesn't have much of an online presence, meaning it could have been a very, an established business, meaning it's been around for a while, but maybe it never really had much of a digital presence. That actually still exists today. Believe it or not, I know because I'm constantly scraping for tree service contractors from Outscraper for, the directory process, the outreach process. And all the time when I'm doing the formatting of the CSV files for the contact lists, excuse me, before I import them into Instantly, because I still do that myself, honestly. I still set up the cold email campaign for my Tree Care HQ agency with Instantly. So I'll go in like I did it today. I set up an Outscraper job. It's still pending, actually. Well, it might be done now. I'm scraping Florida again. It's been 4 years since we've targeted Florida contractors. So it's time to contact them again. And so anyway, once I get the Outscraper output, I'll go through and I'll clean the filter, filter, deduplicate it, filter it, format it properly to be imported into Instantly. And so during that process, oftentimes I will, poke around and take a look at some of the companies, and or maybe if there's companies names in there that are questionable and I'm not sure if it's actually a tree contractor, I'll go take a look at their website. And there's a lot of contacts that will be scraped that there's companies don't have websites. They might have a GBP and they're still actually active, but they don't have websites, or they have real, like sometimes you'll see like these GoDaddy sites that look like they were built in, 2008 or something, and you see that kind of stuff still on the web. And so anyway, the reason why I brought that up is because depending on what the kind of status of the business is at the time that we take on the client, it's either going to be a full SEO audit or a competitive link analysis. If it's a new business or they don't have much of an established online presence, then a competitive link analysis is usually all that's needed, because we're going to build, we're going to build a new website. There's really no reason to do a full SEO audit. We're going to optimize the GBP anyway. They don't have any backlinks because they don't have a website. So there's really nothing to really review. We just need to determine what the level of competition is, and that's what the competitive backlink analysis is for. So I'd link to that for the done for you service. There's also the training here for the competitive link analysis training, which is free. So that I put that there just again to make it convenient for you guys. I don't care whether you buy the link analyses from me or you do it yourself. I don't care. I'm just giving you options here to make it convenient for you. The full SEO audit, if it's an existing business, they have a website, they've been established for longer, they've got a more, advanced or sophisticated online presence, even if it's, you know, not done well. I want to determine all of that. And so the full SEO audit is specifically for that so that I can look at the on-page factors. I'm always going to recommend to the client anyways that we just build them a new site. But if they want to keep their site for whatever reason, then I will go through the full SEO audit process that then I have the instructions for their web team, whoever it is that's managing their website, because it won't be us unless we build it, that they can then execute those changes. So that's why we're doing the full SEO audit. Okay. And then that's also basically gives me all the instructions is like I know what needs to be done for that campaign as well. Since we're going to be managing it, I want to know that so I conduct the audit basically. So that's always the starting point, guys. I won't ever do anything for any client without doing one of those two things first. Full stop. All right. Then we engineer the website structure. I don't have any training in here for that yet. Not sure how I'm going to add training into this for that because other than I just talk about maybe if I can extract some videos and stuff from or sections of mastermind webinars where I've talked about the way you structure sites depending on the circumstance. It's always going to be different. That's why I don't know how I can put specific training in here, but I can reference different examples of different situations or configurations or whatever so that whatever's relevant to you guys, you can glean from that what you need to be able to model or create your own structure appropriate to whatever you're trying to apply it to, whatever campaign you're trying to apply it to. So remember, that's why I think it was Adam Netzer that had asked me at some point, why don't you have an SOP for on page? And I've said this before, there's no way, there's absolutely no possible way that I could have an SOP that could describe all the different configurations. And that's why I try to explain the concepts in various ways from different angles, basically, and showing different examples of how to apply that type of an optimization strategy to different circumstances or situations so that you can see how to then apply that to any such situation or circumstance. And sometimes I don't have the answer, right? Because I don't know, because it's a new situation that I've not done any testing in. And all I can do at that point is say, look, I'm not sure, but this is how I would start in that if it were my campaign. And that's all I could do is give the starting point based upon, again, educated. It's a very well educated guess, I guess, if you can call it that. So anyways, there's no really way to do an SOP on website structure. But I can provide some resources here that will demonstrate how to apply my optimization strategy in various situations so that then you can figure out how to do it on your own. So I will do that. As I develop this out a little bit more, I'll figure out a way to add some training in there for that. Okay. Next, after we've designed or kind of developed the structure of the site, which is really just the framework of the site. And for me, I've already know what that's going to be for tree service contractors. So I don't really have to design anything here. I know 100% exactly what the site is going to be. It's either we're going to give the instructions for their existing site to be corrected into the appropriate structure, or we're going to build them a new site as an LLG template, local lead generation template. That's what I build tree contractors. So it's easy for me. So like I said, for to make this a valuable training tool for others, I'm going to have to put some training in here that will kind of demonstrate some of those various configurations depending on the type of campaign. Okay. Then after that, we order the next thing is to build the brand, right? Now that we have the kind of first analysis, the next thing is to then start to build brand strength to the specific branded location. Remember, it can be a multi-location business. So we're talking about a particular Google business profile, a business location, right? That's what we're doing here. We're building brand authority to a particular branded location. If it is a weak brand that needs brand strengthening because it's very, very weak, how do you tell? Remember, do a branded locations, a geolocated browser, then go do a branded search for the brand. If you don't populate the top 2 pages almost entirely, 80% or greater, 16 or more of the top 20 results, that's what I consider the bare minimum, right? So basically, go do a geolocated browser, use Bright Local, Local Search Checker, whatever. Any one of them that you want, there's a number of them out there that will do it. Geolocate the browser for the same city that GBP is located in. Go search for the brand name. Look at the top 2 pages of search results. Out of the top 2 pages, 20 results, you should have a minimum of 16 page URLs that are specifically referencing that particular business. If it's a multi-location business, it's okay if there are other branded assets that come up for the same brand, but are referencing different locations. A really strong branded location, though, with a geolocated browser should return mostly page URLs that are referencing in that particular location, just to be clear. So you can always improve the brand authority of a particular location by building more branded and supporting assets referencing that particular location and then spoon feeding that data back to Google. Same as attributes, Google Business Posts, ID page, all the kind of stuff that I've been teaching for years. Okay. So again, for weak brands, brand builder is going to be, so those are for those brands that don't have, 15, 16 or greater branded assets for a brand search. Then that means we're going to go into brand builder right away, because that is something that we would almost every time we do this within 30 days, a little bit slower now because Google's just slow to crawl and index things, but usually within 4 to 6 weeks, we've totally taken over the top 2 pages. And that's from the brand builder service alone. For companies or businesses that already have a fairly strong brand, it's well-established knowledge graph for their specific location, then branded assets is typically all we'll do. There's a big difference in price between these two, right? This one's 550 roughly. This one's 300 roughly. So if that makes sense, there's a significant difference in cost. So for stronger brands, we want to save that budget to be used elsewhere. Hopefully that's clear. So there's the done for you service, the branded asset service there's brand builder, which is done under semantic SEO. Branded assets is done under semantic links. Brand builder SOP is there. If you guys want to do it on your own, that's perfectly fine. That's what it's there for. So you guys can train somebody in-house to do the same process that we do as a done for you service. Okay. So that's what that's for. The branded assets training is in the GPP optimization SOP. That's basically just how to order the order instructions, like for getting it done properly, all that kind of some various vendors that you can use for ordering branded assets, whatever. Okay. Citations. This has changed slightly too. Okay. I am still using XPower listings, but there's data aggregators. Just so you know, this is the Bright Local data aggregator service. This is a kind of a decent alternative, and I'm going to show you some other alternatives, which is why I fleshed that out a little bit more today. But this is the local data aggregator service from Bright Local, and so basically it's like these are kind of like you get all 5 of these big data aggregators here for $120. So it's a pretty good price, because what happens is these data aggregators is you first get listed on them with verified listings. That's what this is doing. It's creating verified listings on each of those. And then they distribute, like there are certain other directories, business directories. Some of them aren't the greatest directories, but there are other business directories that then pull data from these aggregators and create listings. So by using data aggregators, which again, it's fairly inexpensive, 120, you get the 6 or whatever, 5 or 6 or whatever these are, all five locations. It's fairly inexpensive, and you end up getting over time. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow process, to be clear. But over time, like if you were to go back and check 6 months later and if all you did was run this one data aggregator service, and you ran the Bright Local citation tracker report for your client, there'd be basically no citations in their citation report. If you come back 6 months later, though, there would be a lot more than just 5, if you get what I'm saying. I don't know how many there would be. That all depends on, whether Google crawls them and indexes them and all that kind of stuff. But you would have a lot more than just 5. Okay, so that's why I think this is a decent alternative. I'm going to be using that more so now as I run out of the XPower listing subscription or slots or whatever. The other thing is then, and I'm going to talk about hyperlocal citations. This is Marketer Center, hyperlocal citations. So these are like, I've used Marketer Center for years. I guess the guy's name that runs this it's Andrew. I think it's Scherer. I think is his name. It's Andrew something or another. But anyways, I've known this guy for years, and so he does a pretty good job. Over the years, he's had some ups and downs as far as some of the deliverables that I've received from him, but citations is pretty consistent. And so hyperlocal citations is a decent one, because they go out and they try to find citations in directories that are more localized than, instead of just the big kind of normal national type sites. That's specifically what this service is for, is finding the more obscure directories and kind of the smaller and regional directories and things like that, and trying to get listed in those. So they have 3 different price levels for the quantity. So $39 for 40 citations, $74 for 80 citations, or $139 for 150, depending on what the competition analysis or the full SEO audit depending on what that told me about that particular campaign, I will go in and purchase. This is a one-off, not recurring. You can add it as a recurring, but I don't know. I really don't even know how they do that, considering, they only have a limited number of these. So, in any case, I just go in and buy these as a one-off batch, just to be clear, depending on what the budget is and also what the competition levels are. In some cases, we'll go back, a couple of months later, 3 months later, or whatever, and buy another batch. So I don't typically go with the big one unless I feel it's absolutely needed, but that's very, very rare. I usually am going to go with this one or this one, and that way there's still some in the tank or in reserve, so to speak. If I need to buy some at a later time, I will still have some out of the kind of total inventory. So, but then there's the service area business citations. I started to mention this a moment ago. That's this here, Bright Local, top directories for service area businesses. And so there's different countries here, but all I ever worked with is companies in the U.S. So this shows a list of the directories and whether they allow you to hide your address or not. So these are for service area businesses that want unpublished street addresses. Which again, I always recommend to my tree service clients, when possible, let's publish your street address. And I try to talk them into it. I give them the warnings about, when we go to publish your street address, it's likely going to trigger re-verification or maybe even a suspension. As long as you have a valid business and that really operates out of that location that you have assigned to the GBP, we should be able to get it reinstated. But I highly recommend that you publish your street address, because it will perform better in search. So I try to get them to do it. Sometimes they won't do it. Sometimes they don't have access to where it was originally registered, so we wouldn't be able to re-verify. And in that case, I instruct them not to. But when we so in that case, then we're going to build service area business citations. So what you can do is go through here and create a list of those that would be relevant, that will allow you to hide the address. And then Bright Local has a done for you citation building service. I think you pay like $4 per citation or something like that. And so you could actually create an account with Bright Local and then go send them the list of the citations that you want built. They'll let you know which ones they can build on and which ones they can't. And then you can ask them to do it for you. And I think, yeah, I wish they would tell you that right here. They should have a column here that says, can Bright Local build this citation for you? But I don't see that. But so you can just contact them once you've created the list and say, look, I want to build these citations on these directories because they allow us to hide the street address. Can you fulfill this? And they'll tell you which ones they can. Okay. So just showing you the different types of citations, the XPower listings, data aggregators, when the street address is published, definitely. I try to do those. Then the service area business citations, when address is not displayed. Bright Local Citation Building Service can fulfill that for you. You could probably find vendors on Legit, Fiverr, things like that, that if you send them the list and ask them, can you do this? They likely can do it for you. So, but you remember, you want to find somebody that's consistent if you're going to use a kind of a third party as opposed to like Bright Local or something. All right, marketer center hyperlocal citations. Again, I will typically always do at least one batch of those, sometimes more, for the client. All right. Then we're going to add all of those URLs that we get from these services here into the ID page. We're going to put them into the same as attributes of the local business schema. And then we're also going to put them in the workbook, the link workbook or the location workbook that we work off of, so that we can cycle through them with Google Business Posts. I got one team member that is responsible for managing Google Business Post scheduling. And that's what she does. She opens up the location workbook. It's an Excel sheet, right? And it's in the project data sheet. That's where we keep all of our branded asset URLs, citation URLs, etc. And so all we do is, I'll just show you from one of my templates. I'm just going to open up my sales template here. So we'll go in here. This is the one that I use for link building purposes, or for demonstration purposes. But we put in, so basically here where the Web 2.0 sites are, is where my VAs for my active tree service clients, we just continue adding all the different asset URLs here that were, from other profiles, citations, etc. And so then all she does is have a merge field like this, right? So that'll be merged and it'll say, target URLs or whatever for GB posts. And then so here we'll put the URL or the site name, then the URL. And then over here is just a column where she just puts an X, right? Her name is Trisha. Every time she posts, publishes a post that links to that URL, which the URL would be here, she puts an X next to it, and she works her way down the list until she's gone through and published a post that is linking to every one of those URLs. Then she'll come back and start a process all over again, right? And then we keep adding to those as new assets are built out. But that way we're constantly forcing Google to recognize where there is supporting data on the web to help corroborate the GBP information, name, address, phone number, and website. It's about building brand authority. Okay. So again, we do all of that as part of the process. So that's why I put that note there. Next, we move on to on page. Guys, this is all done in week 1, right? We get all this done in week 1. Questions? Sure. What's up, Adam? Leverage, by the way. I saw you pop in, man.
Hey, good to see you, buddy.
For Bright Local, I've never used those data aggregators. I always go right to just running the citation building service.
Okay.
Because I was just, I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know where the data aggregators are going to go. Are they going to, like, how long is it going to take for stuff to,
It takes months. It's slow.
Yeah.
It's slow.
Months.
Yeah, so I figured it would just be more efficient if I just went ahead with doing the citation building service directly, which includes Foursquare. So I'm gonna just, put it on, get it on those directories anyway, and just let it organically populate to other ones that are connected. Because I think there was some crazy graph that showed how all these directories are like.
Yeah, yeah, that's an old graph too, by the way. That's a real old graph, and so I'm sure it's changed. Unless they've got
as well, yeah. But I'm just curious. Like, it seems like you open with data aggregators, and that's something that's really different than the way that I operate. And I was just curious, from your experience, why have you not just gone right to just doing the citation building service? If, for example, you can just add one to Foursquare in the citation building service for $4 or whatever it is, and then you're going to aggregate from there anyway.
Yeah, well, because again, the sooner you get this done, the sooner you get this done, the sooner it's going to benefit your client, because it does take months. But like I said, if it's a new business and I run the citation report, and let's say that they got, like, let's say 6 citations, right? And I see that a lot with tree contractors. And then if we run this, and if I did nothing else, no other citation building whatsoever, and I just ran this data aggregator campaign, which again, you order it and they deliver it in, 3 weeks or whatever it is. And then it takes months, but 6 months later, if I was to run the citation tracker report, then at that time, there would be several dozen citations. So I don't know, like, I'm sure there's different kind of, it varies as to how many and which gets picked up and which gets indexed and all that, I'm sure. But I know that other directories scrape and pull data from these aggregators. So I think it's valuable to do because it's very inexpensive anyways. You see what I'm saying? So if you could do, I guess they're saying $30 per location, and you get all 5 for the same cost anyway. So if you omitted Foursquare, you still were going to pay 120 anyway. So in my opinion, I would just go ahead and pay the whole thing for that, and then like I typically do. And then, like I said, I'm still going to build other citations. That's what I'm pointing out here. I'm still using Yext now while I still have some open slots because they changed their pricing, like I said. But as soon as that runs out, like I said, hyperlocal citations, been using that for years. So that works perfectly fine, in my opinion.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is, like, for Foursquare, is there something different when we do it as
I don't know. You can contact Bright Local and ask them. No, I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Because I'm wondering, for $30, it sounds like Foursquare data aggregator is some sort of different.
It might be different than the directory. It might be. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
It might be like a network or something, as opposed to just the one directory. Okay. So, but you could contact Bright Local and ask. They'll help you. Yeah. So anyways, Bradley, that was I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can I interject really quick?
Sure.
What we've seen with the data aggregators is nothing happens quick on it, but it does. I mean, you get a lot more than just a dozen or so listings out of that. I mean, just the YP network alone. Yeah. It's pretty substantial, and you're also going to get next or locally, not locally, is the New Star, which is a big one. And when you look at Bright Locals, kind of like key citations, that one's definitely in there. Data Axle is definitely in there as well. The other thing though that I wanted to throw out to the group, we have been using a site called WL Marketing.
Years ago I used them. Years ago.
We still do, because you can grab 300 citations for $100.
I used WL Marketing like 2012. No shit.
Still use them, dude. They're fantastic.
I'll be damned. They haven't even changed their website. It's the same damn website.
It's the exact same. but they have solid service. They're really fast.
I'll be
And we
damned.
can go, so we go buy the $40 one that's like 100 listings each. And so the first 90 days we'll hit it and get that link velocity coming in from WL. And they're the cheapest one that I've found, honestly. And they just do solid work. So then we'll usually go to Bright Local and grab like the niche citations and different things. There's
Yeah, did
another
you
one
you
out
missed
there.
this, didn't it? Did you see this? This is hyperlocal citation service. Are you familiar with this?
I haven't tried it out yet, but I know WL is just dirt cheap. And
Yeah.
so, you're under 50 cents a citation.
Yeah, these are I had it open. Let me see if I still. Yeah, here it is. So this is inside Marketer Center, and so the hyperlocal citation 40 done for you is $39. So it's under $1 per. And
Yeah.
that's what I was showing here, the pricing right there. That's they have a limited number, obviously. So that's why, like I said, I'll typically do the batch of 40, and then a couple of months later I'll do another batch or something like that when needed. I don't usually go for the whole 150, just to be clear. So
I think too, I feel like it's Bright Local, but one of the softwares that we use, I'm pretty sure it's Bright Local, has created their own Yext alternative that is still API'd into the top ones like
you know what? I
Apple.
saw
Yep.
that just a moment ago.
Yeah.
And just the first time I saw it, Yext replacement service.
Yep. Yep.
I
So
hadn't seen that before.
we're looking at that because frankly, I hate paying Yext $30 a month through High Level.
Oh my God,
Um, just over it.
I'm
And
done with it
and
too.
the thing that we have started noticing consistently every time we pick up a new client that really hasn't done much on the local SEO side, and we throw them on Yext, their spam volume just goes absolutely insane every single
Well,
time,
that's
man.
true. Yeah, but that's from directories, period, though, man.
Is that just directories?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's from direct. Because once you start getting registered in these business directories, they'll start getting robocalls and direct mail, physical mail. They'll start getting a lot of physical mail from marketing and like financial offers and all kind. No kidding, it happens all the time. I've been
Yeah.
seeing that for years. But yeah, I don't know if is this a subscription service or are they just telling?
I think it's a one-off,
That's what it's
215
saying. It's like
bucks.
they're telling you that like it gives you they'll do 30 citations, duplicate removal, and the aggregators for $215.20, and that's supposed to be the replacement for
I
Yext.
still feel like they have like an actual API something though, and maybe it's a different software that we use, but I'm pretty sure it was Bright Local. Um, so I'll have to fish around and find that because we were looking at trying that out. Because to me, one of the real advantages of Yext is you come into a company, and we'll see this routinely where they've had 5, 6 SEOs work on it. So of course their NAP is just completely screwed up all over
Yeah,
the place.
yeah,
And what I like about Yext, you can come in, drop it on there. It just cleans it up in an instant almost.
yeah. That's why I've
Uh,
always liked it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So,
That's why we used it in the first place. Otherwise, I'd rather just pay for them manually, not have to keep paying, $360 a year.
yeah.
And plus, if you've ever worked directly with Yext, they're just a bunch of bastards, dude. And
Oh
I don't
yeah,
want
no,
to
I don't.
support
I
their
do it through
business.
SEMrush. I do it through SEMrush. So we spent a lot of time on the entity analysis part of this or the brand section because that is, as I've been saying for months and months and months, that is the most important thing in my opinion. Get this right, and you can have some issues in these other departments and still perform fairly well. So that's why I spent so much time on that. But very quickly, I want to talk about the on-page optimization, which usually is done within 2 weeks. Like I told you guys before or previously when I was talking through this, if it's an existing site that they want to keep, then I'm going to do the full SEO audit and I will have provided the instructions to their webmaster team to then optimize the site, restructure it, all that kind of stuff. If it's not, if we are building the site for them, which is what I try to get each of my clients to do, is to just let us build a new site for them. Then ours is done in within a week because I have a team member that will deploy it for me now, the LOG template, and it's done within a week. So then after that, it's going through the GBP optimization process. That's usually done within a week, other than some of the like some of the stuff that we go to vendors for. But for all the on-page factors and the photos and all that stuff, that's all done in a week. Again, by the same team member that manages the Google Business Post. Her name's Trisha, so she does all that. And then now I'm developing a content plan. I wasn't doing this for a few years now, and the last few years not been doing that. More recently, over the last couple of months now, I have been working on developing a more thorough content plan again that will then be applied in my industry. All I have to do is develop the content plan basically once. There will be some minor differences in the content plan depending on geography because different types of seasons, different types of vegetation, and things like that. But really, it's going to be the content plan that I develop for my tree service contractors is going to be almost universally applied. So that's why I said this is the kind of strategy that we go through. But once it's developed, the content plan, other than occasionally going in and finding some new opportunities and things like that, it's done. It's then going to just be applied to each new subsequent client. Okay. So I've been using Content Maxima a lot lately, not only for my own tree service industry, but also for in doing keyword research for link building clients and things like that. I've been using it a lot lately. So that is being worked into the overall kind of SOP for my local SEO schedule. Remember that when I talk about the blogging, it's on external blogs. We talked about this again last week or 2 weeks ago when I was at the brewery for this meeting. I was talking about how using IFTTT or formerly, but now N8N or any something comparable to republish content and everything. That is specifically for this. That is for publishing content across multiple branded blogs, brand extensions, et cetera, different platforms that is branded content, always tying the brand back to the products or services it provides and the locations in which it provides them. And so that's publishing content. So developing the content plan to then publish content on external blogs and then distributing that content and new versions of it or supporting content across other blogs. So not the same domain because that creates competing pages. So that's basically what this new addition to this SEO schedule is because over just the last couple of months, I've really started working that back into my overall SEO plan. Okay. Last part of this then, guys, is the off page. This is the continuous work. This is the stuff that you basically never take our foot off the gas. All this stuff is done within usually the first 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay on stuff. That's normal. But then from here on, from basically week 4 or 5, depending on when we get this other stuff done, this is the ongoing work. Okay, so it's just link building. We determine the level of link building based upon the competition analysis or competitive link analysis report. I do outreach links for all of my clients still. Depending on the budget level, we'll do 1 or 2 per quarter because I pay the service that I use. QGP, Quality Guest Posts for outreach links. What I'm doing is I'm still buying links with relevance, but what I am buying really are links with traffic signals that are also relevant, at least at the referring page level. And I pay $199. Pricing starts at $199, so per link, and so that's expensive. And for most of my tree service clients, which are roughly $1,000 a month retainer, I will only do one of those per quarter, unless like obviously if they need if I'm having trouble getting results, I might take a little bit more budget to spend and buy another 1 or 2 of those links. But for clients that are at $1,500 or $2,000 a month, which I have a number of clients like that, then because they're more competitive areas or they target a larger service area or whatever, then we'll do usually 2 outreach links per quarter. And like I said before, what I found is that if we focus on the semantic links, which are links with topical or geographic relevance, more cost effective, and then sprinkle in a few of those with traffic signals, then it tends to kind of help the whole campaign just perform better. So that's why I work those in. Press releases for all of my SEO clients, my own local SEO clients, not white label. We work in a minimum of 1 press release per month. Okay, so we're going to do that. The strategy training for that is there. Typically, we're going to create PR stacks, and so at the start of an SEO campaign, we'll do a premium to announce the new, basically the a new web design or whatever, or if it's a new company, it's obviously like just announcing that it's a new business. If it's a new web design because we built them a new site or whatever, that's an excuse to publish a web press release or whatever. So we'll typically do some sort of an announcement at the start of a new campaign with a premium press release. That also typically, if we're going to do a press release stack, which is like a silo, there's a difference. A silo or daisy chain together. A stack is where you can have a top of stack silo and then multiple other press releases just linked to that one. And so typically I will do stacks, depending on specific product or service keywords for tree service guys. Like let's say it's tree trimming or land clearing or oak wilt treatment or emerald ash borer treatment or something like deep root fertilization, something that has a specialized service that they want to target. then we'll do a stack where we'll target that certain type of a query in the PR title along with the brand name, because that's what we're trying to do, is create that association. And it'll be premium because that extra authority from those premium publications like Benzinga, Globe Newswire, Yahoo Finance. Now, soon, like we're going to be able to publish directly on USA Today, like not as a subdomain, but directly on USA Today. That's part of Press Advantage. It's going to be one of the premium. But all of that is important because you siphon a lot of authority from that we're going to push to the ID page and to the Google Business Profile Map. And then we now have a top of stack that's very, very powerful that we're going to use the Press Advantage release published on the Press Advantage domain as the subsequent target URL for the rest of the other PRs in the stack, because those don't purge. Like they don't, and not, they're all do follow links, or you can set them to no follow, but they're by default, they're set to do follow. And so I think it's important. Plus, you guys know the Press Advantage organization page and press releases will also, there's the embed components, and then there's also the like kind of blog roll of other press releases that are at the bottom of each release. So when you power one up, you're literally powering up the organization page, the embedded assets, plus the other releases. And so that's why a stack is so powerful, because we'll do a press release stack typically for a top of stack. I recommend a premium if you can, and then all the subsequent press releases are just standard, okay, within the stack. And so I always do that for all clients, and we do and there's a number of clients where we don't do stacks. We just do a scheduled press release per month. I still manually go in and edit the revise, or I review it before just allowing it to publish. None of our scheduled releases are set to auto publish. They all have to be reviewed by somebody on my team, usually me, before we will publish them. So I'm just pointing that out because, again, it's critical components. Some of my higher paying clients, we do two. There were clients where we were doing it, or two per month. There were clients where we were doing as many as one per week, but I've toned that down. I've actually gone back and we've reallocated that budget to other types of links and things instead. But press release is still critically important, guys. I highly recommend you use them. I think they are actually becoming more important again because of language models and et cetera. So I think having press releases as kind of part of your overall strategy is important if for content marketing and going forward because of language models. And then lastly, as I talked about previously, like earlier before I really got into all of this data today, engagement and CTR, I'm really not doing much of that now other than setting up proximity push or Google Ads campaigns to CTR with Google users. I will do that when it's absolutely necessary for a client because they need the additional push. It's not something that's easily scalable, so I don't do that for every client. I only do that for those that need it, and I've really kind of toned back on doing CTR from any other source now because Google is getting a hell of a lot better at determining whether it's a validated traffic signal or not, and if Google suspects that you are manufacturing traffic signals, it will start to ignore real signals. And so I feel like CTR is becoming more and more dangerous by the day. So that's part of the reason we're shutting Local Fury down. So just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. That's why I removed those 2 bullet points from when we covered this back in November. Okay.